All right, let's start. So today I want to do kind of graphic representation of some small elements that might you could use in your travel pages. Usually, when we are traveling, we want to grab as many things as we can from the trip onto your journal, but dedicating a whole page to each and every item is just very time consuming. So you want a snapshot of the whole place that you visited. Say, for example, there's a town you visit just for a day. There would be more than one thing that you would see over there, and you in that one day, if you want to complete that one page or a couple of pages, there is a particular style with which you can illustrate much faster, where we don't have to rely so much on proportion or accuracy of color and highlight and things like that. So this style is often used in something like infographics or journals. It's usually black and white, devoid of any realistic elements, but it's very, very quick to illustrate. And it changes the mood of the journal a little bit. So while the last week the illustration we did was mostly realistic, we put a lot of effort in creating watercolor washes and things like that. This week, I want to remove the color element altogether and focus on just line work. So I have shared a few images of foods and clothing and things like that, which are very local. So just a couple of bottles of whiskey, a breakfast spread, and this bagpiper in a kilt. And we will attempt to illustrate all of this. The kilt and the shawl thing that he's wearing, that we will do in color because that's just too fun to miss out. But the rest we can just keep black and white, monochrome. So let's go to our page. We need to fit everything in this page. So now that we have thought of these 3-4 things, you can decide on various layouts. So the best thing to do is usually carry a rough sheet on which you can just sketch out thumbnails of possible layouts. We can make a couple of rectangles about the proportion of our page and make silhouettes of the objects that we see. Like, for example, we could make the silhouette of the bagpiper in the front. We could do a plate of the breakfast bleeding into the adjoining page on the left, and then we could make the bottles in this form. That is one option. So very often you will think of one layout quite fast, very easily. But you must also give a thought to what else is possible. So if you have 3 elements in your illustration, in your page, every other thing, every other layout that you're trying to create, just shift places and sizes and see how that works. Like, for example, we could just make the plate of food in the foreground, make this man in the background, and then the bottles over here. Then we could just switch these over, or you could have the bagpiper in the front. Sorry, this. Have the plate of food over here and have him surrounded by bottles of whiskey. So this is another option. Now, depending upon how much time you have, which illustration is easy to make, you can decide on whichever layout you want to use. So over here now, we have this extra space, all of this space here. So we could consider making the food on this side, make the bagpiper somewhere here, and then just bottles on the side like a border. That gives us a little bit of room on the bottom of this monument to write Scotland. and complete this page as well. All right. Okay, so now let's start with making the plate of food. It's fairly simple. All we have to do is make different shapes. I'm going to encourage you to do this directly in pen if you can. So let us first make an oval in pencil so we know where we want to fit the food. Because we are looking at the plate from the side, not from the top, we will make this oval. It's easier to make an oval first in pencil and then we are going to fill it with food. So I'll just show you the food item and then I'll show you what you have to do. Now, forget what these items are. Just look at the shapes. You have an oval shape, then you have this kind of lacy shape, which is pretty much like an oval. Then you have a diamond shape. Then you have this little bean shape. That's it. So you just have to break everything up into its shapes. I'm going to show this to you so you don't feel completely lost. Now that we know where our plate lies, start from the bottom. That is usually the front. So I'm going to make my oval like this. Remember, this is a graphic, so we are not looking at perfecting the shapes. We are going to make shapes of these objects such that they just indicate that it's something like something you recognize. The diamond shape over here is like a flattened diamond which goes underneath the egg, and it has a little thickness. These are probably some kind of pancakes or something. The other end is not visible, so I'm just going to make one more. Then we have all these bean shapes, which is just tiny ovals in different directions, pointing in different directions. Some are overlapping. So when you're making these lines, make them very firmly. Now we don't have to draw all the beans, just draw the beans that form the edge. After that, we have a more upright piece of something or the other, or the beans come all the way till here. Alright, so I'm going to just increase my portion of beans. And I am going to give this thing also a little bit of thickness, whatever it is. Half the time the Scottish food is just so bizarre, I don't even want to know what they have in it, so I'm not going to bother finding out. Okay, then on the other side you have something that looks like a patty, but the shape is not very round, and let's give that also some thickness. So in all these, if your line is wobbling a little bit, that is perfectly okay. Then here you have maybe something like a ham or bacon, which you can just draw a silhouette of. Wherever you see dark lines or shapes, that's an indication of some kind of texture. Then we have a tomato here which is an oval with a thickness and on the bottom. So it's like a hemisphere cut out. The inside of the tomato you can draw like this. Just some lines towards the outside and maybe the inside of the peel. Another little patty thing. And then we have something that looks like sausages maybe, which is just the simplest shape you can make. And after that we have a piece of toast, which is basically just a triangle. Now since we are seeing the triangle from this side, oh, there's two. Okay. Make a thickness towards the front. And that's it. Now complete the dish by completing the dish. And since we have drawn this oval before, all you need to do is reinforce that pencil line in pen. Towards the front of the plate, we can also make a double line that goes all the way and merges along the side of the plate. So you get that little 3D effect as well. That's it. We don't have to do anything more than this when we are making graphics. So images like these were made for quick representation and quick reproduction as well. So in the time when, especially when you look at manuals, for example, manuals that are going to be printed in large quantities and are meant only to dispense a little bit of information regarding a product or something like that and are disposable. You don't want to spend too much time and resources on printing. So you can just indicate something like that and that's good. Another place where food graphics were made like that were in these old Tadla Dalal books. I remember those graphics so well. There would be a silhouette and there would be numbers on each of these items telling you what they were. Just absolutely brilliant method of labeling. All right, now that this is done, let us take on the bagpiper. So now we have a defined space for the bagpiper. Let's see how we are going to draw this dude. Now forget that this person has a face. We're not going to bother with the face. Now it just comes down to proportions. And as a graphic, you don't even have to make this in realistic proportions. But we are going to study just a basic form and figure out how we want to distribute our space. So let's say we make a rectangle that's about the height and width occupied by this person. And then we divide it into parts. So we have this rectangle space. If we were to divide it in half, this is where I think the half point would come, maybe slightly lower. This is 1/4, just making a regular grid out of it. So you know where to start building things. We don't really need a center line, but why not? So all we need to do is make shapes like these. You'll make a U shape, then you have this neck. This is in the top 1/4. Then you have the arms coming down from there, just round shaped. And then from this side, for the fingers, you will just make nubs like that, or stubs. And then draw straight kilt down, an L shape to the bottom left. And here I'll show you how to draw this feet so that it looks like feet. Okay, so don't draw, just look right now. Keep looking at this grid and draw with me as I show you step by step. Okay, so let's make our rectangle first. Usually the rectangle also has some proportions. Like, is the rectangle, what is the height and width ratio? Whatever the ratio is, it is definitely not cutting our rectangle into squares. Even these further become only rectangle shapes. So you need to develop the eye to look at these proportions in the grid that I have sent. So when you make your first rectangle itself, just check that the broken grid rectangle is about the same height and width as that pink and white that you see. Is it about the same thickness? I think this can get even thicker. Okay. I've drawn the vertical line as well. So this is the head of our bagpiper in the top, but this also includes his hat. Then we have the neck, shoulders coming outward. Now if we were doing this realistically, which we are going to do next month, we would go into a lot of proportions, understanding where everything is placed accurately and all of that. But right now we are making a quick graphic image, so we really can't afford to spend too much time here. So his hands are just going to come round the front with the sleeve and make these fingers like a stump. Don't bother about making fingers right now. At best, you can just make a thumb. And then make the sleeve. So everything is just round and simplified. Then we have the kilt that comes all the way down, a little inside this line. And then on the right center, we have one leg coming down. Make it almost like a rectangle coming down. And then a shape like this, which ends in a flat in the front, to which we will put this cuff on top and nice argyle socks. And on the left, almost like an L shape. Remember, the ankles need to come to the same point. I think this can come lower. Now remember, your figure should look balanced. Huh? So if it's not looking balanced, please erase. Tassels on the side. Yeah, much better. We have purse on the left, this big triangle in the front. I wish I knew the names to all these. And then the rest is pretty much obscured in the black of the outfit itself. But if you know a little bit of bagpipes, it's literally just a bag with these different pipes coming out. For now, you can make just rectangles, and then we will ink all of this. Okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Take your time. If you feel you're erasing too much, then just consider what parts you are erasing and why, and maybe you can just leave that till we ink everything. That becomes firm, and then you can probably get a clearer idea of places where things are not working out. I suspect for many people the legs might be a problem. Thankfully, next month we are going to address all of that. Okay, shall we start inking? All right. So for inking, look at the original image, not the one in the grid. Once you're satisfied with our proportions, then you want you to look back. Okay, start with whatever is overlapping. So we have the sleeve and this hand, which I'm going to draw like this. make a white shape on top, which would probably have some tassels or something, and bring this pipe down. And then from here is where the bag starts. It goes into the arm. Then we have a couple of things on top, some kind of contraption. Make this straight. And then there's this mouthpiece, like most wind instruments have. So at the inking level, it's nice to make details, but if you can't, if you find that too overwhelming, don't bother, just make few straight lines and you're done with it, because at the end of the day we are only making a representative illustration. This is becoming more complex as it goes up. Yeah, just keeping it that, and maybe making a few rings. We are not going to color any of this, so don't worry about that. Same thing on the sides. We have a little frilly section over here from where the pipes get attached. And they have the same structure. So you can draw that part together. Personally, I love making all these details. The more details there are, the more fun I have. But like I said, if it's not your thing and it's getting very confusing and overwhelming, drawing all these lines over and over again, just abandon it. Don't matter. Okay, and then there's this rope tying all these three together at this point. Oh, I don't know what I've gone and done. That's at his head. And it's got a nice tassel. Tassels are just little rectangles with some lines radiating outward. Now we'll finish his sleeve in the front. Give both the sleeves some embellishment. They have a cuff, so let's make that cuff. And draw buttons. And then just draw a roundish arm without any creases or anything. Then he has something like a shoulder pad. attached to his belt, which runs underneath the shoulder strap, which goes to his neck. So you can see that everything is beautifully connected. You really don't have to, uh, there's no trouble in identifying these things at all. Then we have a buckle here. And part of our, I don't know what this thing is called, the shoulder thing, goes through that buckle. It's usually tied up on top. I know the lines are going to get a little messy over here. So if there are too many things happening, like for example, there's a pin here, a circular pin. I'm not even making that because there's too many things there. Then I'm drawing the front. No, first I'll draw the belt, finishing up over here. In the front of his jacket with maybe one button, not three as we see it in this space. That takes care of the top. Then his belt comes all the way down to his waist. There is one more pouch there which I am not going to make. This is a cute pouch on his right or left. And then whatever this thing is takes up a lot of space. You make an inverted U shape, then a couple of compound curves. And now don't make this hair. We are making lines in black, so we have to just make an outline of whatever this thing is. And on top of that, there are these two black-haired tassels. Those you can make with lines. Don't make the white part with lines. Now to make the bottom of the kilt, first make the sides. And the kilt is usually one flat fold in the front and several pleated folds in the back. If you can see that, that's great. Even if you can't see that, you can make a line on the side so that it doesn't look like they're just wearing a skirt. You don't have to make too many folds beyond this point. Is everyone with me? Do you need a minute? All right.
Yes, we need a minute.
Yeah, please say so. I will,
Yeah.
show me, otherwise, I will just continue. But also, if you can't see something, if you feel I'm drawing something that's not there, then do point it out. I can help you identify that object or that line. Because at the end of the day, I want you to see how I see things and then how I translate them into line and draw it. So that the next time when you see a photograph, you are able to do the same. Okay, those of you who finished, if you want to continue, please continue making the remaining also. Those who are still finishing, just indicate when you're done, then I can move along with you guys. All right, now when we have to draw the socks and shoes and everything, you can draw it straight on this, or you can give it some dimension by making the fold on the socks a little thicker. There's some kind of tassel here. Just 1 minute. Okay, moving on to the next leg. So a few things when you're drawing, you just have to keep in mind that look at the level of the socks in the front and the back. The leg that's in the back is not at 90 degrees, so you might have to pay attention to the angle that it makes. Otherwise, your bagpiper will look like a ballerina, and you don't want that to happen. Now, as far as the face is concerned, leave the face blank. We can just make a slightly manly silhouette, square jawed, a flat line on his head for the cap, and then there seems to be this kind of a fold on top. And the last part is this shoulder thing, scarf, blanket, God knows what. I love this print. So make a nice wave, and then remember that all of this is coming from the shoulder. So the folded part of the lines should look as if they're going towards the shoulder, not inside over here too much, not outside. And then we can draw a few tassels. Just draw all of them pointing downward. Some of them might also overlap. That's it. And on his pouch there are 3 lines and a button, but I've just made one. So this is all a way to sanitize the illustration. Things that are not necessary, don't put there. And once you're done, get rid of the grid. Alright, now before we start making the bottles, let us start painting the kilt.
Ma'am?
Yes, Dipti.
Here, I could just show you what I did. See?
Dipti, very nice. Your bagpiper came down?
Yeah, it came down. Actually, I have a small book.
Okay, okay.
Book is smaller, that's
Never mind, that's fine. Good, well done. Okay, so we have to just paint this part and this part, right? It's a very easy method of painting. So we are first going to draw a few lines, parallel lines in pencil. So I'm making these lines in such a way that I can paint. It's a very complex pattern. So I'm going to leave a very thin white line between these strips, and mostly it's going to be scarlet, and then horizontally also the same. It's mostly just red. And just make these lines flat, that's fine. They don't have to mold the body or anything. The trick is going to be to paint very thin negative stripes. Let's leave the shoulder cloth for the moment. Then take a medium sized brush or even a small brush if you need to. Hydrate your scarlet well. Scarlet is the red in the middle, next to the yellow. So I'm using a number 2 brush for this. Make sure the pencil lines are very light. So this is what kind of argyle print? No? What did we call it last time? Do you guys remember?
Not tartan.
Tartan, correct. Sorry, I just forgot. So the tartan is actually quite simple. You have to just alternate the same set of colored thread in 2 directions. So whatever you put vertically, you have to also weave horizontally. It's one of the best patterns to make. And traditionally in Scotland and Ireland, these oh, these prints were indications of your clan. Okay, so we have to let this layer dry, and only after that we will paint the second layer. So that's why I wanted to start painting this before we move to the bottles. So the first bottle we have is called, I think, Dalmore. And to draw this, we just need to figure out basic shapes again in this. So say you have a circle, because the shoulder of the bottle looks like it could be part of a circle. And to get the proportion, which is such a problem with many of these things, just use our regular grid and see how much further you have to draw the bottom of the bottle from the center the center line. Wonderful. It's just exactly 1.5 times the diameter, the height. And we could apply the same thing to the top. So let's see, this is the height of the circle at the shoulder. How far do we take that? Almost exactly the height of this circle. So we have these proportions, quite nice. I'll share this with you so you can get some reference image. Now, knowing how big this is, now you can budget the space. So Dipti, you could probably make this on another page because you won't have enough room. So just take a separate page. Okay, so let's make the circle a modest size. Don't make it too large. When making a circle also, hold the pencil a little far away. If you're holding the pencil too close and making a circle like that, your hand will shiver and you won't like the circle you make. Plus, this is just a guideline circle, so don't worry if your circle looks slightly fat or flat or oval or whatever. Then look at the spaces, look at the distances, and mark the bottom of the bottle. And literally by just making this shape, you will get the bottle's proportions. And all you need to do is from the bottom, turn the line a little to the side and make it round over here. And then on top, just take this entire distance, measure it with your fingers, extend the line up. And if you want to see how fat you need to make the neck, it's about 1/3 of the radius on the left and the right. Just extend this straight up Make a little depression on the inside, 1/3 the way from the top, and your bottle shape is ready. So this too, you can ink at this stage. This becomes the lid. And from here, we have the neck. And then we have the shape of the bottle. So once you make the circle and the proportions of the bottle, you can turn your book around comfortably and make all these shapes. If you try doing this without those proportions, it's an absolute disaster and your bottle just doesn't look like a bottle. Now to draw that lovely deer or stag head, see how wonderfully it is positioned exactly in the center of the circle, a small triangle shape, and then the horns on the side. Pretty thin, no? Not too fat. For this, if you want, you can take an even thinner pen. So if you've got a point 0.005 or 0.05, that's even better. And don't bother making too many details because it's a very tiny space. So make only the details that you can make properly, and the rest just draw a squiggly line there. So a lot of times you might stress over making something look exactly the way it looks in a photograph. But in a graphic image, it's not really necessary. Okay, now we have the second and the third bottle picture are the same. They're the same bottle, but I liked how the bottle looked in the first image, the art bag, and also the label looks really nice. But what we can also do over here is create some Celtic borders, because Scotland was also part of a very thriving Celtic culture. I'll try and look for that border as well because we are going to do some lettering today. Alright, so we'll stop at this one bottle. I'll leave the other two bottles for you to decide and make. For that matter, if there's anything else you want to make over here also, you can. Let's focus on making the kilt now. And
Aditi, can you just put a picture of that bottle? Or will you put a picture of the whole page once you're done?
sorry, this one?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Are you taking a screenshot?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, okay. Let me just bring it closer then.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, now for the kilt, We do the same thing that we did vertically, but now we'll color horizontally. So go straight through, and in the place where you have that thin white line, there'll be a lighter red color. Now it's important over here not to overpaint, otherwise everything will just start becoming one flat color. It's important that we have like two different shades. So you start seeing this checker pattern right away. And on the sides, the pattern is just slightly offset because it's slightly lower. So it's not in the same line, just a few lower. Alright, so now we are going to write Scotland in a Celtic inspired script. So this is a script usually called a insular majuscule, and we won't write the letter too big, but I want to write it in this space here. So first we make a baseline, and no more than maybe about 12 mm, about 1 centimeter tall. So keep the distance from the bottom a little more than the distance from whatever is above the lettering, above this Scotland lettering. So this the space you leave from the edge to the lettering should be a little more, otherwise the connect between the two will be lost. So I'm making two lines, maybe
Aditi, can you repeat that?
yeah, so when you're doing lettering, which is meant to indicate something on your illustration, you want to keep the lettering closer to the illustration than to the edge. So when marking a space for lettering, just check how much space you have. Now effectively, even this little bit is part of this illustration. So if I leave my lettering closer even to these color codes, it's better than keeping it very close to the edge. The vacuum of space over here begs for some attention. You don't want that vacuum. This will keep everything pretty tight. Okay. Now in this space we want to divide this into 8 parts. So you've marked your rectangle, your baseline, your letter height, and then you divide the rectangle into half, then into quarters and into eighths. It's as simple as that, and you get space for 8 letters. No mystery over here that if I start writing from here, is my Scotland going to fit? Is there going to be too much space? You don't need to. You can plan this and do it. All right, now most letters are pretty much the same. It's just the shape of the letters that might look slightly different. So we're going to go with the script called the Anshul, which is it's often used as Celtic scripts. So the S is the same, but it has a horizontal line on top and a wedge shape on the side, and this thickness in the front. Then the C is exactly the same, and all of them have got this wedge in the front, a thickness that comes straight like that, and no wedge at the bottom. The O is just an oval shape with thickness on the sides, and this thickness should be even throughout. If you are confused right now, just observe, and I will show you all of this again on a separate sheet. The T is like the left side of the oval. The L is fairly simple, it just has a wedge on the top and a thin line at the bottom. Now the A is very interesting. This is an oldish A, and it's got a shape like that. The N is a straight line and an arch, which looks pretty much like an oval. The thickness here, and now my D is going to hide underneath the food, so I'm going to let it. The D is just an oval shape with a nice flourish coming on top like this. So this little bit of overlapping looks good, don't shy away from it. Since these letters used to be written in with a flat edged pen, this shape comes fairly easy. I want to show you how this looks in the Anshul script. I just want you to see this so that you understand where that shape comes from. At some point, if you can learn these scripts also, then all this becomes a lot easier. You can use this script in Scotland, Ireland. That's the script, and we have just changed that a little bit so that it looks good on our format. We've made these a little longer and crunched them up a little bit. I think my A can be a little shorter. Alright, now we can use the same scarlet color to paint the letters. So erase some of the lines, keep your letters light, because you don't want that pencil shadow to make the letters too dark. And if you have a flat brush that's 2 mm wide, You can just go ahead and use that. Or just make this in a regular brush that looks pretty good as well. Just make sure that your letters are all sitting on the same baseline. My A has become a little thick, so I'm gonna have to make everything else a little thick. All right. Now this is a place where you can make those Celtic borders that we had done some months ago. And borders can look really nice. So if you want to, you can create, and this you can make with a scale as well. So we can run a border from the side. I usually like to keep my borders in a way that they go behind some of our topics. Then another thing that we can also do, and I feel I should do with you, is just the lettering for titles. So now that we have distributed all our elements like that, and I'm assuming you will make at least two more bottles over here, maybe one here, maybe a glass of whiskey here, something like that. How would you label all of this? So I find that often people are tempted to label like this, one below the other. So you would probably write bagpipes or bagpiper or something like that. But for me, I feel that that is a little too disturbing if you write one letters stacked one on top of the other. Better than that is if you make your letters horizontal, like the spine of a book. So, what if you were to make these patches about the same height or aligned somewhere to parts of your illustration itself? Then it starts looking like a well thought out layout. Then something like this whiskey. You can always make like a little banner. I'll show you how to write in a banner, because these banners are also very typically used in designs of whiskey labels. And if you want to, just underneath this, you could leave a patch empty in which you could write maybe a little bit of text about the tradition of whiskey in Scotland. So, when making your page, there are many ways in which you can create a very interesting layout. It does not always have to be picture, write some title, and then in your handwriting, write something which will not always look good to you. So, now this fellow is bagpiper. So, bagpiper would be 8 letters, so it's exactly the same. We can divide this space into half, quarter, and eighths. And this time we get a lot of space. So we can write bagpiper, but instead of coloring the letters, we can color the backdrop. Right? So how do you do this? You will choose a thin pen to make a block of the letters you see. So you will make a space outside of the letter and create a hollow where the letter is. Literally color around the letter. So we get white colored letters against a black background. Now if you want to, you can leave these letters exactly like this also, or make an interesting label around it. So look at how I'm making this. I'm making lines on all four sides but not corners. And then I will turn the corner into the adjacent line by making a curve. So that again can throw the design off a little bit in a good way. It's not predictable anymore. Oops. And now don't get too excited and color the backdrop in some green or blue or something. Stick to a limited color palette because uh, we have decided to make a graphic artwork. Too many colors spoil that stark black and white monochromatic look. So now, instead of coloring it in a different shade, you can just use your sumi ink or your black watercolor to paint the backdrop. And I'm going to show you how lettering artists paint their backdrop. So actually indeed paint their letters in fact. The trick is to use two different brushes. You use a thick brush or say a medium size brush and a fine brush. So you take the medium size brush and you fill in the spaces around the letters in literally rectangular shapes. So I have a rectangle over here. Here, do not attempt to paint the shape of the letter, but you can get a lot done by just painting the space in between the letters. This covers up most of the area and you are able to paint this in a nice even tone. Then go below. So this works very well if you are painting capital letters. Choose a brush that you have some control over. This part gets done really fast and then you can focus on the smaller bits. For that, if you feel you want to use a pen, that's perfectly fine. But because these pens are disposable, I hate the idea of filling or using the line this ink to fill up just large patches of black, which can easily be filled up using a pen. Oh, sorry, using paint or fountain pen. Anything refillable. Alright, now to finish off that kilt a little bit, using a fine brush, we will take the color green and we will make a few patches in the kilt. So as the design is seen, we have two green lines per red patch, but we are going to make just one line through, right in the center of each red patch. When you use this green on red, it won't look green anymore. Huh? It's going to look like some shade of brownish green or something like that. That's fine. That is how you get that dynamic shade in the tartan print. Keep the colors light. One stroke of the brush should be enough. And if you want to make a more emphatic line, then you can use black or something and make a line through that green as well, if after it is dried. I suppose this is something you can do with a pen as well, because with a brush you need to have a lot of control on the line. You need to be very familiar with the abilities of your brush. Alright, now that this is done, you get the idea. You can print the scarf as well. The socks are also a checkered pattern, but they're not tartan, they're an argyle pattern. To make our graphic look truly like a graphic image, using a fat pen, you can. Sorry, this is not my fat pen, my fat pen is here. A 0.8 or even a 1.2. Make a line that goes around the entire illustration, the silhouette of the illustration. This line helps to neatly tuck in any stray ends of your illustration. It's like slicking a hand of oil on a child's head. Hopefully, all the hair will sit underneath. So, first, I'm going around the body. I will not go around the tassels because they are fairly light. So, I'll leave that entire edge. And then I will think whether I want to also include the bagpipes in it. The silhouette around the bagpipes is also quite complex. So don't do it, abandon. There are very few rules in art that say you should do one thing or another. So, taking advantage of that, do only that which you feel you are comfortable with, and that keep that as a rule always. So, those limitations start becoming the things that will define your style. Now, whiskey also we can do the same thing, Whiskey. So, write the S in the middle, Key on the side, WHI. For this, we can make the same style but in reverse. So, you could consider writing this. So I often used to do this. I would first write in these block letters, and if I feel that my writing is good enough, then I will make that dark backdrop and make the letters in reverse. But if I maybe make the lines too close sometimes and it obscures the white part, then I would just go ahead and color those letters in. Now, one last thing I want to tell you about the lettering. When you do lettering in your journal, do not be tempted to write in your best handwriting. Try, you will have to change your lettering just a little bit. So, make lines inside which you will write the letters, but not as your handwriting. So these lines are not base lines. These are the lines within which the letters will remain suspended. So say I want to write something about whiskey. I can use my pen and ink or a very fine pen. That will instantly change your lettering. And try writing in all capital letters also. And as you're writing, just keep an eye on the space between the lines. So if the next line is slightly lower, I should be able to gauge that quickly and change where I'm writing my next letters. But making those lines at least gives you a starting point. See? So it make the letters clean. They should be readable to some extent, and our regular handwriting just doesn't cut it. So this becomes a much more enjoyable journal to keep reading through also. Okay, so I'm going to add some more elements to finish off this page. And next week we can make another page. So Shivani has suggested Indonesia or Malaysia. She stays in Malaysia, so she might be able to give us some interesting information. It's always good to um, get some info from a local. So if that's okay, I haven't done Malaysia before, so that might be good. All right. Any questions?